Here we are, CIBO's Power Lunch. What a great program we had today. And I'd like to ask that Joe Belcher come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand with me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Joe. I always forget to put something in the works here. I've got some elected officials I need to recognize. Let's start with the Buncombe County Commissioner, Joe Belcher. You just heard him. Buncombe County Commissioner Mike Fryer, back in the back of the room. Hey, Mike. Buncombe County Commissioner David King. Right here, David. Mayor of Woodfin, Jerry Behan. Jerry. Asheville City Councilman Mark Hunt. Mark. And Hendersonville City Councilman Jeff Miller. Hey, Jeff. Good to have you. Okay, moving on with the program. The prayer we'd like to have Josh Holmes. Josh, if you would come up and lead us in a prayer, please.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day and for all your many blessings for us. We thank you for this opportunity to gather together with friends and colleagues. And we ask that everything that we say and do here would be pleasing to you, Lord. We thank you for the freedom to gather, Lord, and for especially for those men and women who fight daily to protect our freedoms and to preserve our way of life. We ask that you be with them and give them strength and comfort as they carry out their duties. Be also with our elected officials, Lord. We thank you for their service. We ask that you give them wisdom and guidance as they lead us. And Lord, as we leave here, we just ask that you please refine everything that we endeavor to be useful and pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Now a little bit of business we have to take care of. We have a nominating committee, and Max Swicegood is going to come up and talk about the election of board member. Okay.
The nominations from the CIBO nominating committee are as follows. Class 1, R.L. Bailey. Stand up, R.L., when I call you. Class 2, Randy McKinney. And Class 3, Vonna Cloninger. I don't know if Vonna's here or not. These are our nominations. Are there any nominations from the floor? If not, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Mr. President?
Thank you. Boy, that was tough. All right. If we just kind of hang loose here, we're waiting on Nathan. He's found himself in the courtroom this morning. So anyway, he'll be here in just a few minutes. So if you'll just kind of relax, we'll carry on in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Introduce to you two budding entrepreneurs here in Asheville who have a very unique concept, but it's James Hamill and Michael Lindsay. Please welcome them, and if you'd like to find out about what they're doing, come see them. They got cards.
Who has come back and I'm going to retire and he's going to take over for me. So it'll be right after this meeting.
You can't retire.
I can't retire?
No.
I need more time to serve on boards and commissions.
Yes, sir. I've got Matt Dickelman from Wells Fargo Advisors and also Jeff Everly with National Restaurant Associates.
Very good. Welcome, guys.
I brought Elaine Moore, one of my co-workers at Goldsmith, Mullis & Gray.
Okay. Welcome, Elaine. If any of you didn't know, this is Nathan Ramsey that has entered the arena. He coming up to introduce.
You're on stage there now.
Clemens said, "Don't worry, we got electing officers, so, I didn't realize I was late." So Senator Apodaca understands that because he tries to keep me on time. When you're down in Raleigh in the General Assembly, the Senate will do this little number to encourage you to expedite your remarks and make them very brief, so I will try to do that. But it's an honor to introduce Senator Apodaca. Nothing gets passed through the General Assembly without his approval. And so he's got a big responsibility, done a lot of good things for Western North Carolina. He has, most of the things that happened this past session for Western North Carolina, whether it was engineering programs for Western Carolina, land acquisition for UNC Asheville, crime land funding, that all came because of Senator Apodaca. If we didn't have Senator Apodaca in Raleigh, it would be much more difficult to obtain those things, if not impossible. So we're very grateful for him. He went to Western Carolina and I went to UNC Asheville, so I told him we don't support, there was some discussion earlier in the session about merging Western and UNCA, which was never seriously considered, but I would joke with him, I said, I don't want to merge UNCA because that would lower the academic quality of UNC Asheville. I think he took a different position. And,
based on your performance.
That's absolutely true. And Western did beat UNC Asheville in men's basketball this year, so maybe the world will be turning a little bit for me. After UNCA beat Western last year, I sent Senator Apodaca a picture of the scoreboard, and he said you will have the smallest office in the General Assembly. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Senator Apodaca, Chair of the Senate Rules Committee and Senator for the 48th District.
First off, I see, do I have some press here? Good, good. Do I have any school teachers here? Okay, good. All right. Can handle the press. School teachers are not too nice to me. But we'll get to that in a moment. My main job in Raleigh is to keep track of our local delegation. I have Tim Moffitt, Nathan Ramsey, Chuck McGrady, and Whitmire out of Brevard. That is a full-time job in itself. They're always into mischief, always, especially Moffitt. I don't see Moffitt here today. He told me to say nice things about him. Tim's a good guy. We have a great delegation, all joking aside. And Nathan has been a great addition to it. And we hopefully will have him back in the next long session. So we all need to work on that. I do quite a few things in Raleigh. I handle the Senate Rules Committee, and along with that, it is technically called the Rules and the Operations of the Senate. So I deal with very important things like office assignments, parking place assignments, things that really count in Raleigh and mean so much to members. But in reality, that is some of the biggest headaches we have of those items, the operations part. I also assign bills to, when they come in and are filed, I send them to a particular committee or to a committee that will not hear it. So if you see something go to Ways and Means Committee, you'll know it will not be heard because they haven't met in 15 years in the General Assembly. So that is the technical graveyard of the General Assembly. But I just want to go back a bit to when we took over in 2010 and came in 2011. And a little history lesson. Oh, I see Senator Ledbetter there, one of my favorite people in the world. Senator, it's always good to see you. We inherited a $2.6 billion deficit. Our state health plan was $600 million in the hole. Our pension plan had not been funded at the proper level for about 4 or 5 years. Now we all know, and many of us have seemed to have forgotten, that we were in the middle of the worst recession since the Great Depression. And thank God things have gotten better. But we're not totally out of the woods yet. And so we need to keep the path going. But I'm happy to report this year the budget was balanced. We made some hard decisions on the state health plan, but it actually had a surplus at the end of last fiscal year. And it seems to be okay and going in the right direction. Our pension plan is rated one of the top 5 in the country. Since 2010, we have funded it at the appropriate levels each year. And so for our retirees, that is very important. Those are the things we don't hear about. The little things we do that mean so much to the state as a whole. The thing I'm most excited about is the unemployment rate. You're sitting in the lowest unemployment area in North Carolina. Now that is phenomenal. And please, you give yourself a hand. Because we have groups here, as our friend Bill McKibben says, that knows what it's like to sign the front of a check. And we create those jobs, and we employ those folks. And the best thing you can give anybody is a good job. And I think we're ahead of the game here, and we should be very proud of that. And I think our future is very, very bright. I'm not one of these naysayers. I don't think our best days are behind us at all. I think our best days are in front of us. And we're in the best place in the world to have experienced that. But let me hit some high notes of what we did this session. One of the major things we worked the hardest on, and the accounting firm here will be facing it next year, was tax reform. We did extensive tax reform. And let me warn you, you're going to start hearing as people study, we're all bad in the United States or anywhere to be procrastinators and to pay attention at the last minute. Well, from now to the end of next year, it's really taking effect. I had a phone call yesterday from a lady who spent 30 minutes telling me how bad it was. Because number one, you have to pay sales tax now when you go to a movie. Number two, we took away the tax for if you're in college. If you have a child in college and you pay their food service, it is now taxable. Before it had been exempted. And what we found out as we dug in to our antiquated tax system is there were so many ins and outs, winners and losers, that had been chosen since the 1930s. We found that some businesses had exemptions. There was a certain kind of roll of bread that was manufactured in one small bakery in Cary, North Carolina, that had an exemption on sales tax when it was sold. Why? Nobody knows. And it's been there for like 25 years. And as we go through, you find more and more of these. And what our goal was to simplify it and switch more to a consumption tax. And this is something that's not new. This was not a quote-unquote Republican idea. Because we go back, and since I've been in the General Assembly since '02, we've had 3 efforts, I remember, to modernize the tax system. And Jack Cecil was very involved in all of those, along with John Medlin, former Wachovia, and Richard Van Root, and some others. Bipartisan group. And every effort was made, and every effort failed. So this time, we got it started. We did not get to the point we wanted to. But the real high points of it, it reduces the state income tax rate from the current maximum of 7.75 to a flat 5.8 in 2014, 5.75 in 2015, and has mechanisms available to take it even lower if revenues pick up, and trigger mechanisms from now to 2020. So it has the potential to get down to 3 ultimately on the personal side. On the corporate side, it goes from it goes from 6.9 to 6.0 in 14, and then to 5.0 in 15. If it meets targets going forth, 16, it could not possibly go to 4%, 3% in 2017, if we make projections. And the revenues come in so we can finance other parts of it. This is huge, folks. This is a game changer, because before we went into this, we had the highest tax rates in the Southeast. Now, nobody's other than Tennessee and Florida that have no personal income tax rate beats us. So it puts us in the game, and it is working. I can attest to that fact. Secretary Decker shares the story of when we passed this. That first night, she received 3 phone calls at home from different businesses interested in coming to North Carolina. I received a phone call yesterday from an insurance company that is looking to come to Western North Carolina and possibly could be between 100 and 200 jobs. But we'll see what happens. But we are on the map. The Wall Street Journal has written this up. I know we always hear a lot about what the New York Times says, but I said I prefer what the Wall Street Journal says instead of the New York Times. So they've written this up as taking great steps to encourage business growth. And that should be very important to this room, of any other group I've spoken to. That is a good thing for here. You're going to see a lot of deductions we used to have go away. But we feel there's nobody in this state that should not receive some type of a tax reduction with this new plan, no matter what income levels. So when you hear all the talk, that's the truth. And we hope it'll do what we really want it to do for North Carolina and take us forward. And I think we're seeing that, especially with unemployment rate. Another thing we don't talk about or haven't heard enough positive things about is the overall unemployment rate for North Carolina. We finally got to 8%. Folks, that's tremendous from where we were. We used to be the 4th highest in the country in unemployment. As of the end of last October, we're down to 10. And that's about our size population-wise. So I think, especially the folks in this room, we should all be very proud of that. And it wasn't easy to get to, and I think the trends are right. Tax reform, we did the budget, and we'll talk more about that later. Education reform, I think we've heard a lot about that. We're trying to make a difference. We're going to make a difference. We're not writing public education off. I am a child of public education in the state of North Carolina. Both my children came through the public education system. My wife taught in it for 20 years. So we're devoted to the public education system. But it's time to change it. We need to bring it in to current times. I was giving an interview on the way over here, and I was bringing up, this is a national trend. This is not just North Carolina. The Obama administration has been key in changing the current education system. They're putting a heavy push on charter schools. They have put pushes have been brought forth in New York, Chicago, LA on dealing with teacher tenure and teacher regulations. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is a national push to get our education system up to par. Some states have already moved on this. Florida's been out in front of it. Tennessee has done a lot of reform. And as of 2 weeks ago, when the NAEP scores came out, Tennessee moved from 48 to 34. And the highest, something of that nature, the highest increase in the history of NAEP testing. And they went through massive reform a few years ago. So our ultimate goal here is to increase the performance of the student. That is our goal. And ever what we have to do to get that. And the main part of our education reform deals with being able to read when you leave the 3rd grade. That is so key. Because as of, prison systems project number of beds needed based on 3rd grade literacy. That's how important it is. They can extend that out. There was something long program the other day on CNN talking about that exact situation where they would project out literacy rates from 3rd grade and they could project how many beds they would need in prison in X amount of years. So it is crucial. As Senator Berta likes to say, from K to 3, you learn to read. From 3 and above, you read to learn. And that's, can't read, you can't learn. So that is what we're trying to do. We're going to make that happen. If the child cannot read, we're setting up a camp structure for the summers where they can go in and get extra help. We're training our teachers more and more with the literacy situations, and we're putting in additional reading teachers. So that is what we're after. Tenure, we want to do away with and pay for performance. You and I don't have tenure. We get paid on how we perform each day, each week, each year. And a good teacher is going to make more money. That's the bottom line. A bad teacher may have to find a different career. But that's not bad either. We've all changed careers when we have to. Right, Jaden? I couldn't. Okay. Energy, I think we read about what we're doing in energy exploration. Governor came out even more on that. Regulatory reform, we're trying to get more in line. I heard this the other day and I almost wanted to cry. I was having lunch with Secretary Scavala, Dina, and he was talking about the new program on how when we're recruiting an industry and they come in for a site visit, he hopes by the third site visit they have a full list of every permit they will need and the process will already be started, so it could be a phenomenally quick turnaround so they can break ground and get going. And there is a project going on in this state, and I can't tell you where because I don't know. I think it might be an automotive. I'm not certain of that. But they have been working on that site prep, and they want to be ready to go if we're fortunate enough to get that company within a span of time nobody's ever seen. And I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to protect it, the environment, but there's no reason we can't move forward and make it easier to go from A to B and to get business going. Another major thing we did that didn't get near the publicity that is huge for Western North Carolina, and that's our transportation program, the new one. It immediately moved up the connector to the top of the list. And so hopefully that'll be something we can move forward on instead of 2020, 2025, get it moved up to current times. The other thing it does is move up the importance of I-26 being increased to 6 lanes, which is definitely needed, as we all know. So that in itself was one of the most huge changes I've seen since I've been in Raleigh. And hopefully we can keep it in place, and hopefully, it will help us in Western North Carolina. You heard a lot about the rural economic, the rural center as it was known, and all the problems they developed. Well, we moved it over to the Commerce Department and moved funding over with it. We did not take all the funding out of the rural center. Matter of fact, we put additional dollars in. They're getting their feet on the ground and getting running forward on it. Jeff Miller and I are working on something right now in Henderson County along with the county and the city to provide an emergency water line out to the Dana community that has some poison wells. And we have gotten caught in that switch over. But I think we're making progress as of today to get those folks the necessary water they need so they can have safe supply. I met yesterday with the folks from Mission, and healthcare is probably the #1 item we deal with in the General Assembly right now. That the tax reform was the biggest change, healthcare was the biggest monster. And we put an additional $1.5 billion into our Medicaid system. We've caught a lot of heat about expanding it. Well, we expand it every year, and it's the fastest growing line item we have in the budget. And we're trying our best, and we're trying to work with our hospitals and everyone across the state to get a handle on it and to move forward and provide what we need. And we just didn't feel comfortable expanding a broken system. And we're not going to expand a broken system. We get the system fixed, we'll move forward. No one's going to be denied health care. We do a pretty good job in providing health care. We shared a story about someone over here from England that had some work done over at Mission Hospital in the Heart Center. I'm very familiar with that place myself. And he made the comment, he was certainly glad he wasn't in England. So we'll take that and go forward. But that kind of sums it up. That, in a nutshell, other than one last item, is what we did in the General Assembly. The voting ID changes. That bill encompasses a lot of different things other than a photo ID when you vote. But we feel like you need to present a photo ID when you vote. I read today that now we're going to make someone applying for unemployment insurance present a photo ID. That wasn't being done. And they have discovered numerous cases of fraud in the unemployment insurance. And so starting this week, they're going to have to provide a photo ID so we know actually who's applying. And also along the lines of unemployment insurance, as we all know in this room, having to pay the unemployment insurance premiums, we were down $2.6 billion is what we owed the federal government in unemployment insurance, what they had fronted us during the recession so we could pay the benefits, unemployment benefits. The feds came to us and said, you're going to have to start paying it back. It was coming to the tune of like $300 to $400 million a year. We had to rearrange the system, and everybody had to share the burden. And the businesses in North Carolina stepped up to the plate. We worked extensively with the chamber in formulating a plan that nobody was totally happy with. So you know in Raleigh, when everybody's upset, you've done the right thing. And we should have our unemployment debt paid off, hopefully by 16 or 17, and can get the rates back under control. And as we move forward, learn by the mistake we made when times are good, set a little bit aside when they're bad. And we also, along those same lines, we have increased the rainy day fund by another $300 million this year. And I think we're close to $750, $800 million in our state rainy day fund in case we do have a hurricane come through or another natural disaster when it's just a matter of time. So I think that's, good business sense also. I found something interesting. Did anybody hear from Asheville Citizen? I was going to actually say something nice about them. They always give me a hard time not saying anything nice about them. Well, I actually saw their front page, and Mr. Fryer was here, and I was talking about folks. They was talking about folks who are not from around here and how our makeup has changed and this and that. And I came across some interesting statistics that I thought people in this room might enjoy. If you ever had the occasion to hear a gentleman by the name of Dr. James Johnson from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Steve, I don't know if you've ever heard of me. Demographer, probably one of the foremost in the country, making projections of what's coming forward. Well, he does a phenomenal presentation and just did one a couple of weeks ago, and it speaks to where we are today. North Carolina has had a net migration of 2 million people since 1990 moving to the state. 42% of Tar Heel residents were born outside of North Carolina. That was 30% in 1990, so we've increased 12%. The states and people that moved in from North Carolina from various states and all over the world, the three biggest, New York, we've gotten 440,000 New Yorkers moved into North Carolina. Virginia, 300,000. And Mexico, 250 at last count. That's probably changed. So it is truly becoming a state of non-natives. This was interesting too, talking about our elected officials. Governor McCrory was originally born in Ohio and raised in North Carolina. House Speaker Tom Tillis is a Florida native. Senator Phil Berger, my dear friend, colleague, was born in New York and raised in Virginia. Senator Richard Burr is a Virginia native. Senator Hagan, although a North Carolina native, was raised in Florida. U.S. Representative David Price, born in Tennessee. U.S. Representative Renee Elmers, Michigan. The mayor of Raleigh was born in Washington, D.C. So it just talks about, it gives some interesting perspective. By 2050, North Carolina is expected to surpass Michigan, Ohio, and Georgia in population and be close to passing Pennsylvania in 2030. So we are growing, we're expected to grow, and the exciting thing for us is that 10 years ago, when I saw this presentation the first time, everything was between Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte on I-85. Well, I'm happy to report there's a new blue, purple, magenta area from Asheville to Spartanburg down I-26. So we are going to be a part of that growth going forward, and we're really going to have to prepare for that. So I found that in his article very interesting. shows a lot. And one thing is he always says also, Dr. Johnson says, before the year 2025, we're going to be short 20 to 30 million in the workforce. We'll be that short having the jobs we need to go forward. And most of us going to be looking after us old people that are still here then. So we need to take that in consideration when we look at immigration policy and everything else in the future. So there's a broad base of what I do in Raleigh and what has happened and what's going forward. I can stand here and talk more, but I see people starting to leave. That's usually a sign to shut up. But I'll be more than happy to try to answer any questions. And let me end on this. We're going back in May, okay? Going back in May, we hope to be in and out before the U.S. Open. That's our target. Because, and get in, get out, nothing too controversial, get cleaned up on the budget and move forward. So.
Matt?
Yes, sir.
Senator, is there any type of cooperation with adjoining states when we're talking about import terminals and the amount of transportation that has the potential of coming through western North Carolina?
There's the attempt to have the cooperation. Now, I'm not the expert on this, let me tell you this. I'm just speaking for what little I know. What you find is it becomes very territorial. Virginia wants to increase their presence at the Norfolk Harbor. South Carolina wants to expand Charleston, and they're looking in southern South Carolina. But I think the big one, from what I'm understanding, is the Savannah port with Georgia. Now, I know we're building that inland facility in Charlotte that should help us with rail service and the intermodal facility, and hopefully that'll bring more to us. The problem we run into expanding Morehead City and the Wilmington ports is our infrastructure is not prepared to handle the cargo once it gets here. And down in South Carolina, Georgia, they're all working towards the double stacked on the back of the tractor and trailers. You can't do that in North Carolina. Our bridges aren't high enough. So it would be a massive undertaking for us to increase and rebuild all those bridges. So maybe the intermodal port will help us. But yes, we would like to have a bigger play in this.
Yes, sir.
Has the blue magenta corridor along I-26 been a specific factor in the upgrading of the I-26 connector project?
No. The simple answer is no. The real factor in the upgrading of the I-26 is the amount of traffic. The actual traffic count is one of the highest in the state for a 24-hour period, from my understanding. Raleigh, if you're in Raleigh and Charlotte, you don't want to be there between 4 and 6 in the afternoon. They're finding throughout the day in some areas, and that's where 26 popped up.
Over here.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Senator. I'm wondering if you could update us on the status of the Western Crime Lab initiative, timeline, funding, etc.
Absolutely. We were able to get 19 additional lab workers throughout the state. And as soon as we hire them and get them on, they get hired somewhere else. So we're still fighting that problem. We received, I want to say, was it 2 to 3 million in planning money for the facility out at the Justice Academy in Eddyville. Hopefully, if the economy keeps going like it is, we can have the ground broken within the next 2 to 3 years and get it going. So.
Are you hearing any talk about the expansion of 26 and making it a toll road in response to that?
No, I have not heard the T word for I-26. The only place you're really hearing that word is I-95 and 77. So.
Do it.
Yes, Senator, thank you for being here, by the way. And how about the increase in revenues? You spoke a little bit about that. What is the increase in revenues, percentage-wise or dollar figure, this year over last year? And also, one other question you can cover. The fuel tax,
yes.
What is happening with that as far as the increase, the way it's done now? It's, I think, is an increase on the wholesale level.
I'm glad you asked that. It was capped in the new tax plan. That was capped. Do a great question. Also, the death tax was done away with. The estate tax was done away with. And there was another one, but the fuel tax was capped. I hate to say on the last revenue numbers I saw, I believe it was somewhere 2 to 4% above where we were last year, but it was maybe a little bit ahead of projection, not a massive amount. So, but once I see exact numbers, I'll give you a call, get it for you.
Anybody back there? Question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Senator, our city and our county is plagued with vandalism in the form of graffiti. And we understand that in the short session, you may look at the current laws that are on the book and strengthen them.
I honestly haven't heard that, but would be more than happy to take a look at, trying to do something about that, because it is a problem. And it's a problem not only here, it's a problem in Hendersonville also. So.
Anything in the forefront regarding gun legislation, or is everything pretty much decided?
Oh, what kind of legislation? Anything?
Gun.
I think we pretty well handle gun legislation at this point. It probably, not in the short session, I think most of it was already heard. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
It's a question. I think it's done.
I can hear you.
You can hear me. I'm
Yeah.
big mouth anyway. Question on Medicaid,
Yes, sir.
mental health.
Yes, sir.
Are there any plans of raising taxes of any kind to support the Medicaid mental
None that
health?
I've heard of. Not on that side.
I've just heard it, so I wanted to put it out
Yeah,
there.
I have not heard that myself. I don't think you'll see any taxes being raised at this point.
Not at the state level.
Not at the state level. Who knows what you county and city guys will do, but another interesting thing too that I forgot to mention, and we've seen this play out, and we see it, ground zero, I guess, would be Asheville, between the city and the counties, and in-town residents versus out-of-town residents. It's popped up in Asheville, it's popped up in Charlotte with the airport, Wilmington with another situation. More and more people as we go forward in that, the exact number, 33 North Carolina counties are losing population every month. 70% of the growth in North Carolina is along I-85 corridor. Their number of moving into municipalities is substantial, and I want to say I think it's around 70% of the folks now are moving into municipalities. So as we go forward, it's going to be this constant tug of war between municipalities and the rural areas of the state and the counties, and I think we're going to see more and more of that.
What's the reasoning behind it?
The reason behind why people are moving to the city, I don't know. Well, the reason behind the counties drying up, many of these counties, the 33 counties, is jobs. There are no jobs in those counties because, they want to build in an area like this. And they don't want to build in Graham County where, it makes it very difficult. But I think America was founded that way with, the population following the jobs. So, and I don't think that's lessened, but it is something. The guy made the comment, the only growing business in those areas are funeral homes. Because it's just, the people staying there getting old. So, over here. Yes, sir.
During the short session, do you anticipate any new legislation regarding abortion?
Oh, no, I do not. And going forth, the only thing that's eligible for being discussed in the short session had to have passed one of the Senate or the House, one of the chambers to go forth. So. Unless it deals with the budget. Yes, sir.
Senator, I'm a member of the Asheville-Buncombe County Historic Resources Commission. And how do you feel about the reauthorization of the historic preservation tax credits in the short session?
Honestly, I can't answer that. I really don't think you're going to see any tax credits come back on during the short session. I think it's going to be, from what I'm hearing, they want to give it time to look at the overall system. And if we need to make adjustments, you'll probably see it in the long session a year from January.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tom?
I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for implementing initiatives to invite industry to come to North Carolina and bring jobs. That's very important. My question is, in the next couple of years, as you all plan, do you see an initiative to encourage and fund development of entrepreneurship at the grassroots level? Because there are a lot of small businesses popping up everywhere, but they need help.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yes, the short answer is yes on entrepreneurship. What we have found is we had competing programs. You know, there are 2 or 3 different programs out there at least, depending on the area you're in. And we need to find a way, and I think Commerce Department is already working on this, to have one consistent program to help entrepreneurs. And that's what we need, and it'll have the full gamut, because I don't think it's fair that we hand a ABC Acme corporation millions of dollars to come in, and entrepreneurs like myself and others come in and produce a lot of jobs, and we get no help. So, and I think the attitude is there to help, because the growth we really want is between 1 and 100 folks employment, because you don't suffer when someone leaves, or the natural course of business. So, yes, there's a definite move.
Question? Is that it? What a great program, folks.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Thanks, Tom. Come back to see us. You visitors, come back to see us also. Let's go to work.